All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel on YouTube. As you can see from the title, this is basically just my, some of my reactions, some of the biggest stories I think from the first 10 games of the season. I've got the standings right here, so every team has played like about 10 games, 11 games. So good time to do a decent sample size. What have we learned? What's the overarching storylines from the start of the season? I think the main storyline, as you can see from, you can see the standings, is that Boston and Denver are pretty much like clear cut favorites right now. And I think Denver has continued that even with the absence of Jamal Murray. It's actually kind of crazy. They're about even possessions with the Murray, KCP, Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Jokic lineup, and then replacing that with Reggie Jackson instead of Jamal Murray. So each have about like 200 possessions or about 250 possessions, but actually the lineup with Jackson is actually outperforming that lineup, which is pretty funny. They're actually third in net rating according to Cleaning the Glass in point differential, basically. Points per possession minus the defensive points per possession, basically differential. So yeah, they're basically like the third best lineup um, in that rating. So it's really interesting to see that they're still performing pretty much exactly the same, if not better, with Reggie Jackson. Of course, everybody knows Jamal Murray is a better player than Reggie Jackson, but for some reason the lineup is just playing a little bit better. I think defensively, most of all, um, they're in 98th percentile points per possession with Reggie Jackson, but only 30th percentile with the Jamal Murray on defense. So and offense is about the same. 95th percentile for the Nuggets with Jackson, and then it's actually a little bit worse, 61st percentile with the Jamal Murray. But I guess just the maybe the schedule was a little bit easier with Reggie Jackson. The teams that they faced were a little bit worse, but it's really interesting to see that. But it just shows you that the system that Denver has, like Jokic creates so many open shots, and Jokic is still like the most dominating player in the NBA right now. That there's so much attention paid to him, and I feel like Aaron Gordon even has been underrated this year as well. He's continuing in his like excellent defensive performances. Can play small ball center if they need to. When they sub out Jokic, he's pretty much playing backup center for the Nuggets. So yeah, really interesting to see that. And and their bench is still really inconsistent, but since Jokic is the best player in the NBA and the role players are performing well, in Jamal Murray's absence, the Nuggets are still like performing really well under the circumstances. And of course, we know how good they can be at their peak, and they're just continuing that dominance that they had from the playoffs last season, and they're gonna basically probably be the best team in the West this season. Barring an injury to Jokic, probably. I feel like that's maybe the only irreplaceable guy. Maybe Aaron Gordon for the defensive, big defensive wing. But yeah, it seems like they're like they're a machine. They're chugging along and they're playing excellent as well. And then the same thing with Boston. Of course, they added Drew Holiday to that mix and added Porzingis, and they've been pretty good fits on the court and off the court. It seems like there's no issues with if Derek White needs to come off the bench, he can. If Horford, he's starting this game with Porzingis out, or he can come off the bench if he needs to. Their lineup with the Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, and Porzingis is actually the best in the NBA. So it just shows you that, you know, Joe Mazzulla has done like an excellent job of seamlessly fitting in, and of course, it's a lot of talent as well. So, it's a big sample size as well. 283 possessions, 40 point differential, which is pretty insane. Um, as compared to Denver's is 38, and I think that yeah, and the I forgot to mention Denver's lineup with Jamal Murray is only 3 points compared to Reggie Jackson to 38, but still one of the best, like 15 to 20 lineups in the NBA. Uh, with Jamal Murray, but that's just a thing to interesting to look at and see how that improves with the when he comes back eventually. But yeah, I mean the Boston, they're just playing well defensively. They're probably the best defensive team, 100th percentile in defense, 100th percentile or 95th percentile in offensive points per possession. They're getting enough stops. They can pretty much guard anybody in the league. Um, and it's mostly just about creating shots at the end of games. I think that's when it comes down to for Boston. And as far as regular season goes, it doesn't matter as much because it's too big of a sample. It's too big of a 82 game, size 82 game schedule that there's not many that like a ton of clutch games, and there's not like it's not scrutinized and not really heavily pressured situations in the last couple of minutes of games. Maybe we'll see in the in season tournament. It looks like they're cruising through that. I think they're 2-0 in the in season tournament right now. Yeah, but and yeah, they should be able to win their group pretty easily. I think it's Brooklyn, Boston, Orlando, and Toronto. So yeah, it should be smooth sailing for them. I think Chicago as well. Yeah, it should be smooth sailing for them in that group, and they should be looking to win that cup. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't be aiming to get that cup. Put some inspiration, put some momentum, and give some confidence to Joe Mazzulla, and give some confidence to Tatum and Brown, and even the backups like Derek White and Al Horford. Like they haven't really won anything yet significant. So that would be a good trophy to add. Uh, and a good trophy for them to say that we're making the right steps and we performed in these clutch situations and we will be able to win that trophy, and then now we can go on and make a playoff run after the all-star break. But um like I said, the in-season tournament is weird because it's only basically a November tournament. The finals are like the second week of December or like the 10th of December, something like that. So it is kind of weird that there will be kind of this lull between December and February again. But I guess that's when most people start tuning in, right? Christmas time to the NBA. But the in-season tournament knockout stages will be, more exciting for the casual fan. But of course, I think the regular season has been awesome this season. That's not even one of my takeaways, but there's so much good basketball on every night. Like you can watch Anthony Edwards, you can watch Tyrese Halliburton, you can watch Tyrese Maxey, you can watch Luca and Kyrie, you can watch even LeBron and AD or when he's playing well. But even D'Lo's been playing well this year. Um, but yeah, there's so many guys. De'Aaron Fox, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. We saw recording this on Friday morning in the Thunder. They just absolutely swept the floor with the Warriors because without Curry and Draymond, uh, they just didn't really have enough juice in their legs um, to feed off the Thunder, especially with the Thunder being so athletic. And that could be a second takeaway from my this season. First was Denver and Boston are probably still the favorites, as most people expected in their respective conferences. But the second takeaway is probably that the old teams are struggling a little bit, like the Lakers, the Warriors, um, Clippers. Since they added Harden, they obviously got older. Um, Even Milwaukee struggling a little bit with Giannis, Lopez. Not even Giannis is not that old, but just the fringe players: Lopez, Chris Middleton, Jay Crowder. He just got out injured as well. Damian Lillard. They obviously, you can see Milwaukee's made a run and they're back up to number five, and they've got up to a respectable record. But the older teams have been struggling a little bit. It's no like even Chicago you could put in that conversation. Not enough athleticism, not enough energy in that in that rosters. So it feels like they're getting off to a slow start. Lakers and Warriors especially. Um, that most people just expected to be a little bit better in the regular season, like be comfortably in that top four. But so far it's the young teams like Minnesota, it's the young teams like Houston, even like Indiana and the Knicks, um, and like I already said, the Rockets. Yeah, all these teams are playing exciting basketball. OKC, they're not, yeah, fifth in the standings as well. So yeah, just a really exciting team for to watch young players. I think that's one of my main takeaways this year. Um, yeah, so that's one of those my second probably takeaways that the young teams are doing much better than people expected. Houston, OKC, Indiana. We'll see how sustainable it is. Like we saw last year with New Orleans, Utah, even I think Toronto. Uh, these teams they were at the top, near the top of the standings last season, but they kind of fell off fell off towards the middle of the season and towards the end of the season. Excuse me. Uh, the third takeaway is probably that the new additions from last season are just now gelling, like Rudy Gobert, Kevin Durant, Kyrie. I knew Rudy Gobert had the whole offseason last summer, but Cat missed a lot of the Alright, I had some technical issues, but I think I'm back. But I think I was talking about the integration of Rudy Gobert with the Wolves, with Kyrie with the Mavs, Durant with the Suns. All these teams just look a little bit better this season, I think, than last season. Of course, Phoenix has been missing Booker and Beal, so they've lost a couple of games, but mostly with Minnesota and mostly with Dallas. Of course, they added like one or two pieces, and especially in the case of Dallas. But the more practice time they've had, the whole offseason they've had, um, I feel like it just looks better than it did last season for sure. Dallas, especially, it looked really bad. It looked, just your turn, my turn basketball. Of course, they added Grant Williams and they've added Derek Lively, who I'll be talking about later on. Another fun guy to watch play center for the Mavs. But just like Luca and Kyrie, they have a good balance this year. Kyrie's coming off screens. Luca's gonna play a little bit off ball. He's not gonna be the best off ball player, but he's gonna play off ball at least a little bit, and they've had one of the best lineups as well. Um, I think in terms of offensively as well, especially Kyrie, Luca, um, usually Derek Jones Jr., Grant Williams, and Derek Lively. But yeah, it's usually Luca, Kyrie, Derek Jones, Grant Williams, and Derek Lively. Although they're getting outscored a little bit this season, with that lineup. They just haven't had that consistent third guy. I think they're still missing that third guy, whether it's Derek Jones, whether it's Josh Green, even Hardaway. I feel like Hardaway has been playing really well this year, but in general, you can just tell that the Mavs, of course, like they've won 9 games. Um, they just look better on offense. They look better on defense. And of course, that has to do with the other pieces as well. But the integration of Kyrie having a full offseason, and I think coaches have said this before, and a lot of players have said this before. Like when you get traded in season, you have no practice time. Basically, you're just trying to learn in game what the tendencies of other players are. And I think chemistry is probably one of the more underrated aspects of playing in the NBA, and how well a team fits and how well a team gels. It's like if a guy's never injured, I mean, never healthy and never had a healthy off season with his teammates, he's never really able to gel quickly. I feel like that's one of the Clippers' reasons they've never done that well in the playoffs either, because they pretty much never have any practice time together basically. And with that full off season with Gobert, never were be able to build that front court partnership, especially when they got Conley midseason as well. That kind of threw off their chemistry even more, probably because they're probably used to playing with D'Lo. Even though Conley's been pretty good this season with really low turnovers, he's barely turned the ball over this year, and that's one of the reasons they're probably doing really well. Is he's doing a good job of conducting the system. He's of course he's not going to be the biggest scorer or biggest assist numbers, but he just plays the game the right way. And usually, some of the some of the traits you'd expect with a different profile, but he definitely like a coach's like basically a coach on the floor. That's what I'm trying to say. And funny enough, um, the what's it called, the Mavs, sorry, the Wolves, like their defense has been amazing and their offense has been amazing as well. But funny enough, their lineup has not been that great, but I feel like it's just their depth. Like their lineup of Conley, Edwards, McDaniels, Towns, and Gobert, it's only up by 5 points per possession. Outscoring other teams by 5 points, but it's probably what, like 20 or 25th best lineup in the league. But they also have a couple other lineups within that range that with Naz Reid coming in, with Kyle Anderson coming in, they just have a really good complement of players, and they don't really have a weak spot in their team with Anthony Edwards and McDaniel locking up when they need to. Of course, Gobert is going to be that rim protector. Of course, his issues are a little mainly more in the playoffs, but he's been an excellent regular season defender, excellent regular season player. I think it just gets a little bit more exposed, I guess, in the playoffs. But Minnesota would be completely happy with winning 50 games and even winning just one round at least this year. Of course, the West is going to be really tough. and you could get matched up with somebody like the Warriors in the first round, or the Lakers in the first round, and then you have a tough series and you might lose. But that I think Minnesota fans are just trying to root for like a 50 win team, and they were even missing that last season. They struggled to get in the playoffs. I think they were in the play-in tournament. I think so, right? Yeah, they were in the play-in tournament, lost to the Lakers, ended up winning the play-in 8 seed, and then ended up losing to the Nuggets in 6 games. And people were saying the Nuggets, that was their toughest series between that and the Phoenix series, but just because of Gobert's length and Towns, and of course, Anthony Edwards can ball out at any moment. We saw him, in the Celtics game and numerous other occasions this season, just balling out on both sides of the ball. He needs to still be, I think, a little bit more consistent on offense, but he has a variety of moves. And the one play that stood out to me was a couple of games ago, I think against the Warriors, when it was a close game. They were pretty much double teaming him, triple teaming him. 30 seconds left, up by 1 or 2, and then you got to get a shot off, right? You got to get some points on the board, extend that lead. And he kicks it out to Mike Conley and hits a dagger three, pretty much to seal the deal and basically make it a 5-point game, 4 or 5 point game. I can't remember. But that's the type of plays that I think a lot of people are want Edwards to make. Of course, we know he's a really natural, gifted scorer and can pull up from 3-point range whenever he wants to. But it's about developing his game even more, getting into that mid range, getting to the paint, and of course, he can dunk on anybody. But playmaking, that's like, probably one of the more developing skills of his that he probably can still work on. But I think the next, well, the main points I've made so far is probably that Denver and Boston are the favorites in their conference. Um, the young guys are the league is just fun to watch. I don't know, if that's a point, but just like there's really exciting guys on every team, and I think a lot of people expected that as well with how different teams were getting a lot of love at the beginning of the season. Even Paolo and Franz, like playing well in Chicago, hitting a game winner. But yeah, a lot of young guys are playing great. Like that, like I said, so the first one was Denver and Boston, still favorite. Second one, new additions from last season are just now gelling, including like most of all Rudy Gobert and Kyrie. And then I think the third point of mine that's probably one of the insights from the first 10 11 games is that this rookie class is going to be really good. At least the early signs of it are really really promising, and that goes from Wemby to Chet to Derek Lively to Asar Thompson on the defensive end. A lot of rookies don't get a lot of love on the defensive side, rightfully so, because they're just learning the game. Even Jordan Hawkins balling out for New Orleans. He's 3-point shooter. Is not afraid to get up any shot at any time, and like a Richard Hamilton, I think, type, more of a modern day Richard Hamilton, where he's a little bit smaller for his position, maybe, but he just keeps moving, not afraid to shoot, and always has confidence in his jumper. But obviously, the main takeaways would be Wemby and Chet, really balling out. Of course, Wemby, I feel like his stats are weird because he plays well, like in some of the big games, like against Phoenix, he played well. Even against Houston, first game of the season, he played really well. But I feel like most of his impact is coming in the fourth quarter, the second half. If the games are close, that's when you see more of his impact. But if the Spurs get blown out, which they recently actually have been, you don't really see much of his impact, which is kind of weird. I don't know if he's like saving his body a little bit for the fourth quarter, not going as hard in the first half. Maybe he's still used to that France type of workload where he kind of had to pace himself and then try to carry the team in the fourth quarter. But I don't know if that's what his mindset is right now or what, because his percentages actually increase as the game goes along as well. In the first half, he's shooting like almost like 25 to 30%, and then it goes up to like 50-60% in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. So that's something interesting to watch. Of course, the Spurs are, like I said, they got the first pick and they've been getting blown out. So they had the first pick for a reason. Their team's just like still very young, and the West is so stacked. Like you can already see like who's going to be missing the playoffs. It's like it might be Memphis. That's probably one of the early favorites to miss the playoffs completely, and nobody would have expected that if you told them at the beginning of the season, Memphis is going to miss the playoffs. Maybe like play in, something like that, 5-6 seed. especially after the season they had last year. But I feel like they had just so many injuries and Jaw that the West is just going to be so competitive. I don't even know if that's just like one of my observations from this first 10 games or just like a, just a side point, but it's just going to be a bloodbath in the West. Like whoever gets that, 11 seed is just going to be super mad. Last year it was Dallas. It turned out to be a good thing, right? They got Derek Lively, but in the moment, people were saying, why are you benching Luca and Kyrie? Why are you even thinking of that possibility? Luca and Kyrie in the playoffs, you could, develop, you could drastically, I mean, you could always have a chance against anybody, basically. They've been had close series with the Clippers the last couple of playoffs. They made it to the conference finals last season. So, sometimes it works out for you, sometimes it doesn't. This time they got lucky, they got drafted, and they ended up with Derek Lively, who's been a perfect fit for their team and been a good impact for their team. Um, but I think there's also some rookies that are struggling as well. But um, like Taylor Hendricks has barely played. He was in the lottery. He's in the top 10. Jet Howard, I think he was 11th or 12th. He's barely played. Even Jarris Walker for the Pacers, he's barely played. So there is some, random, obviously going to be some random busts or random, underperforming players. But of course, it's only the first 10 games. And there's still a lot of games to be played and a lot of years ahead in their careers, not just this year. But I think other rookies that have stood out as well, Marcus Sasser. He's been a good spark off the bench for Detroit, especially when they were missing, Alec Burks and missing Jaden Ivey for, I think, injuries and sickness. Um, but yeah, he's been a good spark off the bench. He can shoot the ball for sure. He competes on defense. That's what he was known for. I think at Houston, right? Marcus Sasser. Um, but yeah, one of those guys. Even I don't even know if there's rookies, but the young guys just for Denver, I think I mentioned that earlier as well, that they're competing really hard. Of course, they're not going to have their bad games as well because they're still pretty young. But in general, the rookie class has been really good. Wemby, Chet, like I said, Derek Lively, Asar Thompson, Amen Thompson, probably one of the more, I guess, underwhelming rookies, mostly due to injury. But even in his first couple games, he kind of was messing up with the Houston bench, and of course, he's a rookie. He's gonna have turnovers. He's gonna have mistakes that he makes. Um, and then the final point is that Tyrese and Jalen, the Jalen's, they've been excellent this year. They've really carried their teams when they needed to. They've been the prime second guy that the 76ers wanted to. Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton has been like an MVP candidate, like I've said in that last video. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. But and then Jalen Johnson, Jalen Green. I like the improvement that they've made this year, developing their game. Jalen Johnson's just been a really good athletic wing forward, uh, replacing that John Collins type. You can see why they, were not that eager to keep John Collins, and why they were always trying to keep him on the trading block. Um, so it makes sense that they moved on from him, because if I feel like Jalen Johnson is probably going to be better than him, maybe next year, maybe this year, I don't know. But even though John Collins hasn't been doing that bad in Utah, you can see Jalen Johnson just fits their build and fits their roster a little bit better, and he doesn't mind spreading the floor as well. But I think one of the other um, last points I had was, oh yeah, the Clippers. Probably talk about the Clippers. Um, like I said, the new additions from last season, you're just now seeing the effects this season. Like I said, Gobert and Kyrie. So we'll see how the additions from this year, like Bradley Beal and James Harden, uh, affect their current teams now. But I just saw, it was funny to see that the second best lineup on Cleaning the Glass in terms of point differential is actually Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Robert Covington, and Ivica Zubac. So it just shows you that the Clippers had an excellent lineup before the James Harden trade, and they just traded. They just basically threw like a big wrench in that situation. Just threw like a big I don't know, player in that situation with James Harden. Of course, he's gonna play better. He played better in that Denver game for sure, compared to that Grizzlies game from last Sunday. But yeah, it's still like a work in progress to see how the rotations shake out. Is Westbrook going to be benched at the end of pretty much every game? We'll see how happy he is with that, because he definitely wasn't happy with that with the Lakers, and that's one of the reasons he got traded. And one of the, I guess, I mean, Mostly just didn't fit with LeBron and AD, um, but yeah, the Clippers just had a good thing going, and they kind of messed it up. Like, for if I was them, if I was the GM and I was the coach, I would not have done the James Harden trade. I would have done like maybe a Tyus Jones trade, maybe like I don't know, something like that. Alex Caruso, um, even somebody like Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't even know if that fits. Bones Highland was playing well, and now he's getting DNPs or very low minutes. I would have done like a minor move, something like that. They're just to build their depth a little bit, because they lost a lot of their depth with Covington and Batum. Even Plumlee, Plumlee's hurt right now, but um, they still kind of messed up their lineup, and now they have to wait and see and try and figure it out. And Tyronn Lue has a big job on his hands to see how, like I said, how the lineups work out with that. But yeah, I think that's some of my main reactions from the first 10, 11 games. Um, Another reaction is the Nets are actually good when Simmons plays, but he's continuing not to play. Um, Kings are still legit. Knicks are good. Houston, like I said, made a video on them a couple days ago. Really impressed with them. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Even Fultz, when he's played with that lineup of Suggs, Fultz, Wagner, Paolo, and Wendell, it's like a top 10 lineup right now. So, but they've only played pretty much exactly like 150 possessions, something like that. So, still, uh, still waiting to see when the Magic will be healthy, because it seems like it never actually happens. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. Levine is apparently getting traded in maybe a few weeks. But yeah, we'll see what happens with him, how that can impact the playoff race or the championship race. But for now, takeaways were Denver and Boston still the favorite. A lot of young guys are legit, really improving. A lot of fun guys to watch this year. Mostly the Tyrese's. um, Third takeaway was new additions from last season just now gelling. Rudy, Durant. Fourth takeaway was special rookie class: Wemby, Chet, Lively, Thompson, Hawkins, Sasser, um, Kaysen Wallace. I didn't even mention him. He's been excellent shooter just off the bench. Whatever minutes he gets, whatever spot minutes he gets, he's been excellent in his minutes. He defends hard and he plays hard, and he shoots I think he's shooting like 60% or over 60% from three right now. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.